Okay, so what's leasing? Leasing is basically renting a vehicle, basically, same idea, but guys, you can't just return it whenever you want. That's never gonna be a valid answer, like why should you lease? You can't return it, it is like your phone, right? If you get a phone, you need to finish your contract before you can return it, or else there'll be a penalty, okay? We talked about security deposit, it covers damages. If you get it back if you don't have any damages, of course. The down payment is never taxed, but the regular monthly payments are taxed, okay? The residual value, what is the residual value? It's essentially a percentage of what it was brand new. And as soon as you apply taxes to your residual value, we call it the buyout. The buyout, that's very important. So if I ever ask you, find out how much it would cost to buy the car at the end of the lease, this is what we're talking about. And it basically just means that you got to add taxes to it. Anything that is taxed is always taxed 12%. Then there's your mileage cost. It's right if you're going over the limit. There's always a limit, guys. You can go check it out. I could make another assignment. It's like go find a lease, and there will be somewhere a fine print saying you cannot drive more than this. Okay. Hello, hello. Why is that? Why is that? Because mileage is the #1 indicator as to whether or not the car is worth a lot. So if you look at a car that you really want on Kijiji or Marketplace, and you're like, whoa, this is cheap. Go look at the mileage. It's going to be 200,000, 300,000 kilometers. It's going to be very high. Somebody used it to travel in the city or outside the city a lot, so they racked up a lot of miles. Another thing, a lot of the used cars you see in a lot are people returning their leases. Okay? So business owners, a lot of business owners, real estate agents, people that own companies, they have fleets of cars. They'll get those, use them up for 2 years, bring them back, get a new vehicle. And the reason is to keep their maintenance low. Because as a business, you can't afford to be down, right? You can't be like, oh, shoot, my car doesn't start. It's going to take 2 days until it's in the shop and out, right? You can't afford that as a business. So oftentimes, it is more expensive, but it allows you to run efficiently. So, but when the leases are up, they return them, and then dealerships sell those to you, okay? So the used vehicle you get is a lease, is someone leased it. And so the lower the mileage is when they return it, the more they can sell it for, okay? And so if you go over the limit, they will charge you for it because they got to recoup their money somehow. Because if you give it back with a lot of miles, they're going to lose out. I hope this makes sense. Hello, hello? Page 45, if you're just joining, make sure these formulas, so as soon as I start giving you some work time, these formulas should make it onto your study sheet first. Maybe do an example or two, but once you're comfortable, this goes onto your study sheet, okay? I'm going to say this is the frustration of grade 12 for me. I never know what the province is going to throw at you. I never know. I open the exam the same day you open it. The first time you see it, that's when I see it. And so the one thing that I can think of is that they may throw in some parts and labor, right? They may say, hey, you return the car and you scratch the door and they need to fix that. That's going to cost you $500. What would you tax that if there was some sort of repair? Would you tax it 5%, 7%, 12%? 12%. Because parts and labor is 12%. And this is always going to be with you. I hope you always have the formula sheet that I gave you. If you don't have it, let me know later on. I'll give you one. The back of this is always going to be available to you. It reminds you what RST is, which used to be called PST, and the GST, federal tax. It reminds you of the rates, and it tells you, right, if it's materials and labor, it's saying yes for this and yes for that. So that's 12% combined. So if you ever forget, if you're not sure, you resort to this. But my formulas usually take care of that. Okay? So I'm just thinking, could they throw that at you? I can see them doing that. So I have everything like compartmentalized kind of, so, but don't lose the fact that everything is connected in this unit. All right, let's do an example here. Go to 49 with me. And so yesterday we did an example here where there was no mileage. So I will just go to the top of 49 and just say there's no mileage here. So if you just want an example without mileage costs, that is at the top of 49. And then on 50, page 50, we of course are going to have one that's going to have mileage. Good? Let's go to 50. I'm actually going to, yeah. So do as many examples as you possibly can when I assign, because it covers things that I may not have covered. So it raises some questions, all right? 50. Michelle is returning a Toyota Corolla, which she leased for 3 years. Okay? So there's, first of all, you realize I'm in the leasing section of my study sheet. Don't mix up the payment for your loan with the payment in the leasing section. Don't do that. Keep them separate. The original purchase price of that car, right, was $24,000 before taxes. So brand new, it was $24,000. Michelle paid $310 plus taxes per month with a down payment of $4,000. The guaranteed, I'm going to highlight this with a different color. The guaranteed residual value in the contract stated that the car is going to be $15,600 when you're ready with your lease and you want to buy it. So it used to be brand new this, and now it's saying, hey, when you're done your lease, you can expect to be paying this much before tax. So we're going to have to add taxes to that. The lease agreement, here is mileage. I'm going to use a different color yet for this. Do they always fill it with that much information right off the bat? Sure, sometimes. So we just got to kind of break this apart. The lease agreement allows for 12,000 kilometers per year. Lolo, 50, page 50. Read this carefully. Does it say the lease agreement just allows for 12,000 kilometers, period? It doesn't, right? It says 12,000 kilometers for every year of the lease. So can we do some mental math here? What would that be over a 3-year stretch? 3 times 12, 36,000. So read carefully. Sometimes it's just a flat amount. Sometimes it is per year. So you gotta be careful, okay? With a charge of 15 cents per kilometers over the limit. The vehicle is returned with an odometer reading. Odometer is just the part in your dashboard that shows you how many kilometers you've driven. And so someone brings it back with this many kilometers. You can tell this is over, correct? If you haven't noticed yet, you will find out. Okay, so A, calculate the total mileage charge Michelle will pay after tax. Remember, what is the replacement for after tax? The province is going to say plus tax nowadays if they want you to add taxes. So I'm going to stick with my formula, okay? So watch this. I'm going to come back to it. Which one of these formulas, I want to figure out kilometers past limit. Am I going to use this one? Or am I going to use this one? You will use this one here because it gives you an allowance per year. So I'll use this one right here. Okay, so I'll write it down. Kilometers past limit. You go, sorry, I'm like Dory here. I forget everything. Finding Nemo. Kilometers driven minus allowance times years. That's what I'm going to use here. I've driven 41,200 kilometers minus the allowance in this case is 12,000 kilometers per year. So we're talking 3 years, correct? So that'd be 41,200 kilometers minus 12,000 times 3. I will just say that this is allowed. Let's put limit. Why not that? Let's go limit. And so if this is the limit, you compare it to what you've actually driven, you can totally tell you're over. So you got to watch out. Sometimes you're not over, in which case you would not be paying any penalty. Okay? So this, if you subtract this, you get 5,200 kilometers over limit. Will you always use that many lines when you do it? Probably not. I don't care how you show this step, as long as you figure out the 5,200. I'm going to cut this off here, and now you figure out the cost. You take the 5,200, you multiply that by 15 cents per kilometers. And I know this is tight, but we can do it. And I'm going to add taxes to it. It's okay to do it all in one shot, like there's 3 numbers multiplying. But if you prefer to just do kilometers times the 15 cents, get your number there, then add your taxes, that is fine. You will get the same number. Lolo, page 50. 873 point. What's wrong with that? Nothing. It's good. The province has an issue with that. It's money. So if this is anything but 0, you got to add that second 0 to that number if you want full marks. So this is answering the question. And if you like highlighting, this 5,200 is what I used here to figure out the cost. So you'll have to pay, at the end of the lease, you'll have to pay this as well for mileage, for going over your limit. Okay. Biggest disadvantage of leasing is, in my opinion, is mileage restrictions. Okay. Okay. Now, calculate the total cost of the lease after tax. Okay, this is asking for the lease itself. You're not buying it, none of that yet. This is just the lease. Total lease, if you have this on your study sheet, you need to add the down payment plus total payments plus mileage. Those are the 3 main components that you will always have to account for. Okay, so let's go further back here with the equal sign. The down payment, is there one? Yeah, it's 4,000, right? Right here. So there is one. It is not taxed. Plus, how would we find out the total we've paid in terms of payments? I start with the payment, or is it 310? And you can go times 1.12, like adding taxes to it. And then you can go times how many months? 36 months. So you got to watch out, not just times 3, okay? So this will take care of the total payments, including taxes, plus the mileage. I already have that. That would be 873.60. Do I multiply this by 1.12 because this is asking me after tax? Go back and check. Did you already do that step? Yes. So this already has taxes in it. Don't be multiplying it by 1.12 again. The government would love to do that, by the way, double tax us, but we won't allow them. We'll put our foot down on that one. 310 times 1.12 times 36. So I'm just going to break this down. You know what? One thing I was just thinking about, I always think about how to make the course better. An advantage of buying a brand new car is roadside assistance. It usually comes with a few years of roadside assistance, right? So you can basically sometimes just push a button and you get help, or you can call a number and you get a tow for free if it's not too far away from the city. And you know what inspired that? The tow truck joke. That's what inspired that comment right there. So now you just add everything. So if you're wondering what is he talking about, be on time, and then you won't miss the jokes. Anyways, 17,372.80. After taxes, is this after taxes? Are you sure? Because I never taxed the 4,000. That's okay, right? It doesn't get taxed. So it's kind of like saying all applicable taxes are applied. This number includes that. So the only thing different from the previous example is that we had to do our mileage costs and add it up here to the total lease. So this is your lease cost. If you bring it back at the end of the lease, you will have paid this much over the 3 years. Okay? Determine the cost to purchase the vehicle at the end of the lease after tax. It's asking, what is it asking for? Buyout? Does that ring a bell? You're waiting for the bell, I know. Asking for buyout. Asking for buyout. Okay. Before you do buyout, what's the residual value? Do I need to calculate it? In this case, no. It's actually here. It is already a dollar amount. It's a guaranteed residual value. So just 15,600. That's it. There's no percentage of the new. This is it. So now buyout. The only difference is we're going to slap on the tax. That's it. 15,600 times 1.12, 17,472 to buy it at the end. Can you leave it like that? Yep. If there are no decimals, just leave it. You can do the 0.00, not wrong. How is 49 different in this? We had to go 60% of the new vehicle price to figure this out. In this case, they just flat out gave us what that is. Okay. D, calculate the total cost of the lease, including the purchase at maturity. That's this year. So total, absolute total, including purchase, would be answer in B plus answer in C. So it's these two numbers added up. And I will just give you the answer. 34,844.80. If Michelle would have financed the amount over 4 years at an interest rate of 5.25%. Calculate the total cost of the purchase including total interest. We're just going to leave this for now. Sometimes I like to expand, but we're just going to say optional for now. You should be able to do this. This takes you back to financing. You would have to find your payment, and you find your total interest and all of that jazz. We're going to put that on hold for now. I'll just give you the answer if you want to know. It's 29,000. Write it down on the side here. 29,489.92. That's including the total interest. So obviously it was cheaper, right? If you compare to the total lease, like you lease and then buy, versus you just buy it up front and you finance it with your bank, you'd save yourself $4,000, right? Just over 4,000 savings there. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you to spend some time on the questions that follow. So that would be page 54 to 56. I'm going to write that down on this here. Page 54 to 56. And if you're done those, I'm going to ask you to come back to 51 and 52. Only then. Because I know some of you are going to finish this sooner than everybody else. So that's fine. Just don't idle. Find something to do. Advantages and disadvantages of leasing. Go to 48 and let's write this down before we go today, okay? 48. So one big advantage of leasing is that it is lower monthly payments compared to financing. In general, if you keep on leasing, if you're always leasing and returning it and getting a new one and leasing, it's going to be safer as well. Okay? It has the latest safety features. I'm just going to write that. Potential tax write-off. For businesses. If you're a business or self-employed, if you use that car for work purposes, you can write that off. So that might be a good one. I'm telling you this, you have to use them wisely. You can't just be like, what do I have on my cheat sheet? Boom, I'm just going to write that down. An advantage, you got to kind of like customize it to the situation. Okay? Lower maintenance. Right? Under warranty. So if you keep on leasing, you always have a brand new car which comes with warranty. You may return it. This one is very obvious. At the end of the lease. And lease another one. This one is also very obvious. You always have a new car. For some people, that is very important, right? If that's your image as a real estate agent, then you might want to always drive a brand new car. You don't want to show up with an old beater to sell someone's house. I don't know. maybe not. What's the biggest disadvantage of leasing? Mileage restriction. Yeah. Big one. You're limited, right, to the kilometers set by contract. So if someone lives outside the city and they're leasing a car, tell, George, why you shouldn't be leasing. You may incur extra mileage costs because of that. You have payments never end. Cannot use as an asset. So if the bank says, hey, what do you own? Before I give you a loan, I want to know what you have. You cannot put the lease under that. It just isn't yours. Can't use as collateral. I think you should know what that, I should introduce a collateral is what you tell the bank that you own and they take it against your loan. If you don't pay it, they come after that, right? You cannot modify it. You cannot add like a different exhaust to it or a spoiler or anything like that. You can't do it. So if that's important to you, I think that's good. So have these and transfer them in a short form onto your study sheet. Because technically, if you read a short part of it, you should know what we're talking about. Page 48.